Welcome. This is a report on the Kendal and Crosslands communities resident car use survey that we conducted this fall. It was an item that the energy committees have been discussing for a while. They decided we'd just get to business and do it. A little background first. We are a multi-campus community, and you'll notice in the lower right, Kendal at Longwood, and next to it, moving to the left and upper, is Crosslands. Those are both the CCRC communities. Across the highway, to the north of that, is our two communities, Cartmel and Coniston. And you hear those names in the chat, but those are independent communities that can use the resources on the campus, but they are not CCRC yet. Residents, they have to move onto the campuses to benefit from the continuing care contracts. So the problem is that we've been trying to assess our energy use. The Crosslands campus has one electric meter, and the Kendal at Longwood campus has one electrical meter. We don't know quite what's happening within the campus. And in our effort to assess their energy consumption so that we can work toward meeting the 2015 Paris Agreement goals, we figured we had to measure the energy consumption now and develop a reduction plan to meet the goals and monitor it regularly. To date, we have collected data on all the energy consumed by the campus in the last 2 years. So electricity, natural gas, gasoline, diesel fuel, those two for campus vehicles, and occasional propane use. What we realized as far as energy consumption on the campus was that we're missing the residential personal car purchases. And we realized that could be a flaw in our strategy. As we succeed in reducing our carbon footprint on our campus and electrical cars become more common, the electrical demand for charging those cars will be added to the campus total. And we felt we needed some reasonable estimate of the local miles driven by our independent residents and a reasonable equivalent electrical demand figure. So we created a form, it's here on the left. It was designed for combined information from a residential unit. So one survey form was placed into each of our open mailboxes. We debated whether to have it be online, but decided with our population that we would more likely get a better response if it was paper. And so we bit the bullet and did that. The first two paragraphs set the stage, so it introduces the survey parameters, and then we just asked several simple questions. We're focused on understanding the local miles driven, but we asked some other questions as well. We asked it in a way that were fairly easy to answer. For instance, approximately how many miles do you drive in a year? And on average, how many times do you leave the campus? And if there were extended trips, what was the approximate total mileage? And those were, we thought, questions that would get answered and respond to us. And we then did the math. We did ask, would you consider a full electric or plug-in hybrid car in your next purchase? And got some an interesting response. One person crossed out likely and said, definitely own my last car. So there's the range of opportunity in the future. There was this you'll see is titled Crosslands, and we did a separate one for the Kendal Longwood campus with a different return address at the bottom. So the results of the survey were we got 308 out of the 465 forms. So a 66% response rate, which we were very pleased. We were hoping we might get to 40. By doing our math, we calculated that the local mileage was almost 1.3 million miles per year. And when you project that on the total community population, it's just under 2 million miles of personal car use per year. And we used a reasonable a conversion factor of 0.346 kilowatt hours per mile for electric vehicle energy consumption, and then projected our electrical equivalent to those miles driven at 675,000 kilowatt hours per year. We then compared that with our total electrical energy demand on the two campuses. And turns out then that the local car use amounts to about 4.4% of our 2020 electrical demand. In the future, as we succeed in reducing the electrical demand on campus, the actual percentage of miles driven could go up. And we now have a figure that we believe helps us understand and strategize how our program is progressing, and if we have calculations for getting green energy from somewhere, at least we know what the car demand increase might be. In conclusion, I'd like to comment, we are actually considering a staff mileage analysis as well. We don't want to be intrusive, but we could get some estimate of mileage by requesting zip codes for the employees. And we've made that request and I have not yet heard. We'll have to follow up on that. The formal report that was prepared for the Energy Committee here and at Kendal has been sent to Michelle, and I'm hoping she can put it up on the website so that it's readily available. And that formal report includes the pattern of car ownership, how many units on campus have 0 cars, 1 car, or 2 cars, whether they're hybrid or electrical, and also the present utilization of campus buses, how much for on-campus travel, how much for medical trips, and how much for shopping. The report and the gathered data are going to our transportation committee to help them as they improve our position in both satisfying the residents' needs and moving toward a more fossil fuel future. Are there questions?
I think everyone has been muted for the recording. So if you have a question, maybe stop sharing, Ben, and I unpinned you. So we should start to see everybody.
I will stop sharing. There we go.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve has a question. Steve?
Hi, Steve.
As part of this, did you also calculate the carbon footprint of the current gasoline usage by residents?
We included how many hybrid and electric vehicles in question to allow us to estimate mileage that the residents might be getting, and therefore we could possibly work toward current gasoline purchases. But realized that what we really wanted to see was the figure on how much of electrical demand the future might be. And so we just jumped into that figure directly. But we do have,
that would be a part of your carbon footprint currently, so to
Yes, it would be. That's correct.
calculate the gasoline
Yeah.
carbon footprint. Or the gasoline plus electric carbon footprint for.
Yes, yeah.
Any other questions? Just remember, you've probably been muted during the recording. I think so. Ben, I have a question. So just to give an overview for anyone who's listening, the purpose of this survey was to create an estimate of how much electrical demand would be needed. Are you saying if everyone were to have electric cars, and how many chargers you would need to facilitate that?
More that if we are, as electric car use increases,
Mhm.
we are adding electrical demand on our campus system at a time when we're trying to reduce it. And we didn't want to be blindsided.
I see.
So we needed an estimate so that we could factor in that as for our planning and expectations.
Okay.
The campus bus transportation should in the future reduce the mileage of cars, but that's an unknown at this point as well.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of obviously a lot of factors involved in getting where we want to be.
It's wonderful data to have. I think that's an excellent job.
Yeah, I agree. And I was concerned. Oh, I'm sorry, B. Oh,
It's okay. Go ahead.
I was concerned, having read stories of people whose electric bill went up by 50% when they got a Tesla, that we would be looking at some huge jump like that in our electric bill when everybody had electric cars. I was delighted to see that we might get, if everyone had electric cars, we might get a 4.5% increase, much more manageable. Go ahead, B.
No, I'm just curious to know what the schedule is to start adding electric vehicle charging stations here at Kendal. I think a lot of people who are coming in, the newbies, will be looking at that. If Kendal doesn't have any way to charge their car, then they might choose to go to another CCRC.
Yep, I mean, Kendal and Crosslands each have 2 charging stations.
That is to say, Longwood, Kendal at Longwood.
Pardon me, yes, Kendal at Longwood and Crosslands each have 2 dual charging stations already installed.
Are they planning to put in more?
At this point, they're not getting used enough to demand more, but we certainly, I mean, George, you've only seen 2 cars charging.
Yeah, I've only seen 2 cars charging once. We have four slots on each campus. I've only seen 2 cars charging at once at Longwood. And in fact, in November, the total hours of charging for both campuses combined was less than 6 hours. So it's not like there's a lot of demand yet.
Yet, yeah. How about here at Kendal at Hanover? What is the estimate projected?
B, we have 1 station coming. It's in the works. It's been held up by supply problems. So, and Scott is the expert on this, but he's not on the call today. He's traveling. But there's 1 coming, and it would be located somewhere near the front entrance. And I think we're hoping by the spring it will be there.
B, if I may, the other thing that Kendal, Longwood, and Crosslands have done is to institute a policy of providing a standard 110 15 amp outlet in the carport and charging either $10 for a hybrid plug-in or $20 for a full electric vehicle
Per
to cover
month.
the cost of electricity purchased in a month.
So that has minimized our use of the central charging locations. And I sense that a lot of the use of the central chargers is visitors and staff, not so much residents, because residents can charge overnight in their parking spot.
But that's at Kendal at Crosslands, right?
Longwood and Crosslands, the same deal, yeah.
Oh, so you have already access to charging facilities within your car parks.
Well, it's not necessary. All you need is a regular outlet like you would plug your computer into. It's much slower, obviously, than one of the dedicated chargers. But in the case of the car I drive, for example, which is a plug-in hybrid, it charges its battery, which will take us between 45 and 50 miles before the gas engine kicks in. It charges in 8 or 10 hours on a regular plug like you would plug your computer into. So you don't need a special plug unless you want to charge faster.
Yeah. Stu,
I got my plug-in hybrid Prius in February and was plugging it into the outlet in the carport. And in April, 2 months later, 1,300 miles after we got the car, we decided to put gas in it.
yeah.
So the bulk of the mileage is local.
We don't even have 110 outlets in our garages.
Right. Right.
There are no options.
We have no option. Is that something that Kendal at Hanover is looking at, Stu?
Scott's the expert, and it's certainly a discussion. And he is getting us, we will be getting a survey similar to Crosslands, I hope, eventually. You will be getting a questionnaire. So we hope for a big response. It's terrific that you got, Ben got 66%. That's amazing.
Astonishing. Something
we should aim for.
It did not require a sophisticated statistic to say how accurate my results were.
That seems very reasonable.
Okay, any other questions?